Hello, beautiful people. It is me, the Ebony Mystique, your eclectic entrepreneur. I am a massage therapist, an author, and a pianist, not always in that order and not always on the same day. I make videos about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be a self published author, and what it's like to have a piano gig. If you clicked on this video, you know why we're here. You're here because I was having textual relations with a book called Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. If I didn't get that right, I'm pretty sure I got it right, but if I don't, I'll edit, I'll put it in there. So I saw this kind of as recommended online, and I'm like, cool. I like to take some recommendations. Sometimes I just like to blindly go out and find a book. This one I saw online. Everybody was talking about it. And it was nice, and I was like, okay, cool. Let me read it. My first thoughts was like the plot. It's a really good plot. A mother passes away and she leaves audio recordings for her two children because there's a family secret that she needs to let them know about. The father has since passed. The children are estranged from each other. The daughter's estranged from her and the son. And there's like this big secret. And I was like, okay, this is a very interesting plot. Let's see where this goes. Plot, loved it. It was good. Characters. I will say the only characters that I was truly invested in was Mr. and Mrs. Bennett. Eleanor and I'm sorry, I can't think of the father's name, but Gibbs. I was interested in the mother and father's story. Their story to me was the most fascinating part of the book. I'm not gonna say I didn't care for the kids, I just didn't really like the kids, especially Benny. I felt like the kids moved in a sense of entitlement that they felt was justified. I think because I am closer to 50 than I am 20, that hindsight is like I can see where as a young adult I was a little obnoxious, or I didn't know what I didn't know, or I thought I had things figured out and I didn't, or I did not respect my parents in a certain way or see them as actual human beings. I just saw them as like, these are my parents, they should do XYZ. I can see now in hindsight that growing up I did not have the grace for them that they should have had. They were young people raising a family, 4 kids, and the time in which my parents grew up, it was the civil rights era, so they're like in their late 70s. I see as an adult that I can see my parents as a whole now. They're not just my parents. They're people who were living through the civil rights movement, born post World War II, born during the Cold War. And I see how that kind of like sculpt their personalities and their characteristics. And because I'm closer to 50 than I am 20, I could not tolerate, could not stand Miss Eleanor Bennett's children. I didn't like them. I felt like they don't, and in all fairness, they probably don't know what they know. But I can't even say that because in the book, they're like late 30s and their 40s. They're old enough to know that their parents lived during a time that wasn't fun for minorities in the United States or in the Caribbean or in England, because this book takes place in different areas. So to me, I felt like with the kids being at the age that they were, they should have had a better understanding of what it's like to be an adult and what it's like to make adult decisions. They came off as very spoiled, brattish. And I understand that we're going through some things, but like I said, as an adult, you realize everybody's going through things. It's not just you. You may live in a bubble when you're a young adult, when you're like 19, 18, 20, somewhere around there. But when you're getting to late 30s and late 40s, as an adult, you need to grow up and realize, hey, they lived in a time that you did not live in, and they had hardships that you didn't necessarily have. So for me, the characters that I liked the most was Mrs. Bennett and her husband. I was very invested in them. I loved their story. I could have just read their story and been done with it. I didn't even need to hear the other things. And as far as the conflict the conflict of being estranged from the parents because Benny had this lifestyle that she wanted to basically express to her parents, which she should be able to do, and their initial reaction wasn't what she wanted, so she cut them off because that one initial reaction was not what she wanted. She cut them off. So to me, I was like, deuces. I really didn't care for Benny. Byron's typical overachiever trying to prove things that he doesn't necessarily have to prove, but he was kind of like he didn't have his own drive. His drive to me seemed like it was based off of what his parents wanted, and he did well for himself, but he also just, his personality seemed a little flat. His conflict with his ex-girlfriend, it was just like, I don't even understand why he is upset, because I'm like, I could understand why the ex-girlfriend was upset and why the relationship ended. So their conflict was just like, to me, the greatest conflict was with the parents. Like, the conflict that they had to go through and the choices they had to make, that's what made this story. Conflict wasn't bad. I just didn't care for the kids' conflict as much as I did the parents' conflict. And I understand the kids were going through, there was some trauma that happened with them, but to me, their conflict was kind of just in comparison to what the parents had to go through. Y'all, easy peasy. Benny's was a little bit more drastic than Byron's. Byron is the other son of Benny, Byron, and Eleanor, and I keep forgetting the father's name. But yeah, so conflict wasn't terrible. They did a good job with it as far as I'm concerned with the parents. And I guess some people will feel like the children's conflict was just as daunting and, you know, all that good stuff. To me, it just seemed like a lot of their conflict was self-made to justify things that they wanted to justify. Benny, some of hers, there's something that happened to her that just really was not her fault. You know what I'm saying? That straight out of the gate, not her fault. But some of it, self-inflicted trauma. Just, girl, you're doing the most. So overall, I did enjoy the book. I would give this book 3.5 bookmarks. Like I said, I prefer the parent story versus the kid story, but overall I did enjoy this book. I definitely would recommend it if you like historical fiction, if you like there were flashbacks in it, easy to follow, chapters were pretty short, it wasn't a hard read at all. So definitely if you like historical stories, if you like generational type trauma type stories and a mystery, definitely check this out. So 3.5 bookmarks, Black Cake, Charmaine Wilkinson. Till next time, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later. Ta-ta.